He's vice president of Yes California, the group behind the secession movement. Marcus, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tucker. I really appreciate the opportunity to come out here and speak to all your audience.
I'm from California, and I'm interested in what's going on there. So the last time a state tried this, I think, was April of 1861, when South Carolina made a secession move, and it didn't end well. Is it going to end better for California, do you think?
Yeah, because we're fundamentally trying for secession from America for fundamentally different reasons than the Confederacy did. And we're pursuing a very different legal mechanism. Just off the top, the South did not want to have a good partnership with the North, and they were against equal rights for minorities. Yes, California is saying that California is the most diverse place in the world, and that we want to have more minorities, more immigrants, more international connection, and essentially reject the values espoused by the Confederacy and whatever states formed it. Additionally, they tried to do violent unilateral secession. And when we look at Texas versus White, which is the only federal Supreme Court case ever in America's history to look at secession, they said, you can't do that, but you can, and this is the literal phrase in that court case that you won't see repeated in the news for whatever reason, I'm sure it's an accident, is that states literally can leave through consent of the states. So the phrase consent to the states is in there.
I think that's all true. I guess in reading your materials, you say that basically it's an ideological move. This is accelerated since the election of Trump. California did not vote for Trump. That's an understatement. And you guys want to move out and make it a kind of liberal utopia. Immigration is one of the issues that you mentioned. Would you open the border, your southern border with Mexico, wide and let all of Central America, to the extent it already hasn't, move to California? Would you have any closed border at all, and if so, why?
Every nation has to have borders and border controls and a functioning border. Yes, California wants a more open immigration system and a working immigration system. And the fact is that when we're talking about border controls, who's in charge of immigration? Who's in charge of the visas? Who's in charge of the border? Who has always been in charge of those things? The federal government. And they've totally failed. The fact is that the federal government hasn't done comprehensive...
No, that's true, it hasn't, but California does encourage people to come by issuing, for example, driver's license for illegal immigrants, among other things. But one of the results of massive immigration into California is, when I was growing up, it was the richest state, and now it has more poverty than any state. Almost a third of the state is in poverty. LA is the poorest big city in America. If you were to let millions and millions more of low-skilled laborers come into the state, how would it get richer?
Right. So the poverty is not because of the undocumented immigrants. It's because we lose $16 to $32 billion a year. It's because Silicon Valley is one of the major economic drivers of California. It loses about $3 billion a year because America's foreign image is so horrible that foreign countries will not buy technology products from California. So we lose money. Additionally, our trade deals,
because your middle
which
class
California needs, are held up by about 10 years. So it's the federal government impeding California from making money in the billions of dollars that actually allows us to be impoverished and not keep people employed.
Okay. I mean, I don't love the federal government either, but that does seem like blaming the Russians for the election results, maybe a little bit of denial. Let me ask you about this.
I saw the interview with you and the guy who called you a Russian spy. Now you know what it's like. They can just accuse you of anything.
Yes, they can. So California has 11, I think it's 11 military bases. Would you keep those, and would California have nuclear weapons as its own country?
So, yes, California has been very specific to say that we're only going to do 4 things. If you believe that California would be better off as a nation, not perfect, but better off, great. If you believe that we can only use legal mechanisms to get there, peaceful mechanisms to raise the argument, and that California is about diversity and there's no room to argue for that, against that, then you're in. We don't really take policy stances on a bunch of other things, so we haven't taken a stance on those issues. What we said is that it would be negotiated between elected officials in California and officials in the American government.
As one of the driving forces behind this, and as someone who's not, speaking for myself, going to move back to California under any circumstances, should I have something to worry about? Are you going to be a nuclear-armed left-wing power like Maduro's Venezuela, for example, but with nuclear weapons?
So I will answer the question. I absolutely believe in not deflecting. I get it. But yes, California has not taken a stance, and we're not going to, because we only ask people for 4 things. But in my opinion, obviously, you look at the history of California, and you can see where the characters are. California does not like nuclear war. It doesn't like nuclear anything, so likely that may be gone. It's also the #1 place for foreign direct investment, tourism, international students, and trade. So we don't think it's actually a target for being invaded. It doesn't go around telling countries what it can do, bossing them around, invading them, and disrupting their democracies.
You've got an international border. I mean, why wouldn't California become satellite parking for Tijuana in about 20 minutes if it didn't have means to defend itself? I mean, the only reason it doesn't happen now is because the federal government's protecting, let's be honest.
Well, there's a difference between border control and military. And we would always have the border. The California Highway Patrol provides a second line of border deterrence a few miles north of the Mexico-California border, and we would continue to use the existing infrastructure that California has and make it more robust through better partnership with Mexico. We would not open the floodgates and let everybody from Latin America in. That's economically stupid. Our movement has been about good economics and growing the California economy.
You already did. I'm sorry. I wish we had more time.
Actually, we didn't.
Oh, I was just back home the other day. I think you did. But Marcus, we can debate it when we're back in the Golden State. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just the federal government runs the border, so we don't actually have the ability to open the gates. Only they do.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't improved California. Thanks a lot, Marcus. Great to see you.
That's a fact.